Good morning. It's hump day. There's my sound check. Thank you very much. Give me 1 second. I just got to shut the door, reduce an echo. Okay. What's the program? Here's the program. They're below the low, obviously. Well, maybe not obvious, but they're below yesterday's low. So we're in the camp of spike the low and rip it back up in the other direction. The question is, the $64,000 question is, from where does that happen? And here's the real answer. I have a number, you see it on the board, 440.90. There's another one with a spike of 440. That's a big time support area down there, and I don't know that they get there. Okay, so my answer is, unfortunately, it can happen from anywhere, but I believe that they'll rip it back up in the other direction at some point and run a test of the pivot at 443, and that's what we've got. Get above the pivot, that's fine, but at least run a test of the pivot. That would be our exit on the trade, at least for a portion, depending on from where they do it from. You want to buy it down here, you have to be willing to buy it lower, and the spread starts to get wide all the way down to a spike of 440. That's the risk. But they can do it from anywhere. They can come down another dollar, 50 cents, 25 cents, and just rip it back up. My point is this. I believe, again, that they're going to do it in both directions today. I think they're going to whip people around. Weird Wally Wednesday, Whipsaw Wednesday, call it whatever you want. It seems to be a possibility today, so it's an awareness, all right, which means there's opportunity. Right? Doesn't mean we're going to get whipped out. It means there's opportunity. Other people get whipped out, and we're going to try not to do that. So the stocks on the move list was rather quiet today. We got Tesla and Tower Semiconductor, so we'll see what happens there. We got Fed minutes at 2 p.m. Yeah, the minutes are just a cleaned up version of what everybody already knows. I don't think there's anything in there. I mean, I don't know what's in there. I don't care what's in there. I don't think there's anything for the market in there. But listen, if the market moves, that's the reason. Right, it's an excuse, absolutely. No issue with that. Still got over a minute to post time. That's it. They're just hanging around near the low. I won't be surprised if they rip them up to 443, and I won't be surprised if they drop them down $1 or so. Neither way, you'd never know. You got to take your base hits today, at least early on, until the market shows us some kind of stability / direction, regardless of which way it is. But you got to book your base hits today, okay? Like every day. Yeah, there they go. Just trying to pop it a little bit right into the opening bell. They do that a lot. I'm watching the futures. You can see the line down here pre-market moving a little bit. It's hard to see. So we'll see. If they drop them, there's a buy. If you're long, 443 is a target. Spike above it, likely. Right out of the chute, a little bit of a buy the dip crowd situation. As long as they're above yesterday's low, 443 is the target. Just in case, not that one. 119.95, or maybe a spike of it. That's still okay for now. Agilent, it's early. Yeah, see, here comes the shakeout crew real quick. Just the early back and forth stuff. It's normal garden variety markets. Chad got a quick few points. Nice job. Okay, as long as you booked it, I like it. Okay, this one's not registering. There. It didn't really get close enough. Now Agilent's off the table at 119.95. Let's go back to the Qs. You know, let the spiders come down a little bit. Let them spike the low. Let them shake out the Johnny-come-latelys. Yeah, and then of course they don't want to do it. 443 and a spike of it is likely going to be overhead resistance, but it's not a short. While they could react there, they're down a lot. They're down too much to short them in the hole. We're not doing that. Variable risk. Qs happen to be at a number, but if the spiders do come down, they're likely to come below that number. They just happen to be closer to a number than the spiders did. That's why we treat each chart independent of one another. Traders that are already long, trying to ride it up to 443 or more, that's fine as long as you recognize they can pull the rug out at any point and make a new low. And you'd have to be willing to buy lower rather than get scared away. Here comes the pivot. You know, if you're playing for the pivot, you got to be out in front of it. If that's your exit, it should be an exit waiting for a spike of the pivot to exit. If you're willing to exit at 443.15, you should exit in front of 443. That's my opinion. Exit into strength. We sell into strength so that you're not chasing it around. And there it is. Okay, there's your pivot. Above the pivot is the bull case. If they stay above, they're going to go to 444.65. Nice job, Will. There it is. Those of you that took the ride and you still have some, you're holding a trailer, that's perfectly fine. By the way, if you heard me in the background, I was riding it up. Yep, that's fine with the trailer. Look at this. Now, 444 is likely to be some overhead resistance, but my number is 444.65. They don't have to get there all in one shot, but they should get there as long as, what's this all about? As long as they stay above the pivot. Don't even know when that was from, folks. Honestly, I can't even say that that's any good right now. It's just a gap. Okay. It's a gap. It's fair enough. Trader's choice in there. Gerardo booked 820. Nice job. Shannon bought calls yesterday afternoon for this Friday. That was actually a pretty smart play, Shannon. And even if the market was down right now, I would still be with you on that one because they're going to whip it around and they're going to go back in the other direction during regular way options expiration week. It's unlikely they go down for 5 days. It's just unlikely. I'm sure the Qs are having a nice day. Yep, look at that. Off that number. Interesting. Look at that. The reason I said that about Shannon's calls for Friday is it was calculated risk. You knew what the downside was. It was calculated risk, I believe. Not looking for 100 S&P points. You know, you're just looking for a trade. All right, no change here. As long as they're above 443, 444.65 is a target. May take some time to get there, and they're likely to run a few shakeout operations in between. That's the way the market works. It's an awareness. You have to be aware that that's happening. It's not immediately that everything is wrong. It's they normally will do that. So it's how we rewire our brain to think correctly about what the market's doing. What it's doing now isn't necessarily going to continue in the next minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. But the big picture is as long as they continue to close candles above 443, the door will be open for, 16 points above that. And they're already more than halfway home. But they are going to come back and forth most likely. Either way, that's the play. It's not easy to hold it. I get it. But if you're holding a trailer and you got a profit in your pocket, you're in the driver's seat, you try and hold it because you never know how many points they're going to give you. You never know which ones are going to give you the rocket ride. 444 is going to be a place. It's going to be natural resistance, give or take. Doesn't mean it gets rejected all the way back down. It just means natural resistance, which is likely story is they stopped going up for a while. How long's a while? We don't know. Just we're talking it through. And if they don't, so be it. You're on the ride, you're on the ride. Now I know where that came from. Just patience. That's it. If you're long, you're holding it. There's no short, you're holding it. Great job, Trevor. They're on, Shannon. You should have got one. I got it. Let me know if you didn't. Okay, thank you. Good. Did we get to 444 yet? 90. That's normal. You know that. Everything's a give or take. Sometimes they come up short, other times they spike them through. That's just the way it is. You know, the tape setup today, just so you're aware, you're not going to see me spike the low and rip it back up in the other direction in the pre-market so fast. But the setup was the setup today, and it's hard to explain. Maybe it was just read this book before, but kind of the writing was on the wall for me. There's your 444, close enough, 2 cents. You know, I never said it was, Ben. It may be, but I never said it was. In fact, a minute and a half ago, I said there's no short. Not right now. And here's why. Let me explain this one. It's a good question. This is natural resistance. Well, I shouldn't say natural. It will be resistance, but Look what the market is. Eventually, you're going to get a squeeze, right? Eventually, you're going to get a squeeze, and they're going to go up 4 or 5 points on the SPY, the 50 handles in the S&P. So I'm not sure that I'm willing to take that variable risk being down this much, shorting it for a few points. See my point? That's me. You want to short it? That's up to you. You're likely to get a reaction there. I can't say you won't, but I don't think it's for me. You're welcome. I gotta just tell you the straight shot from where I sit, you know? It's just not appealing being down that much. It's variable risk for me. Here's what I wrote about 444.65. You're likely to get a reaction the other direction. Under normal market conditions, that's likely to happen if they get there sooner than later. Right? I'm ad-libbing to the notes. But eventually you're going to get that squeeze somewhere. All right. Likely this week, you'll see one of these. You know, little shakeout on the upside, pies in the face, screw over the put holders, buyers, all that stuff. You're likely to get a reaction there, but if they start closing candles above, it's going to open the door for another leg higher. And if we get one of those buying begets buying, they go quickly. Just saying. Gerardo got 1.25K profits locked. Nice job. Brian, the ride gave him 14.12.50. Don't lose sight of the 50. Every penny counts. I love it. Right. I agree, Brian. And I'm precise like that too. So I'm with you. I'm all about the numbers. Well, everybody does, but there's another side. Tracking, Brian says I track earnings daily. Well, we all do, but there's a side, there's a balance. And I know some of you have a daily goal that you're trying to hit, and having a daily goal is a tough thing to do because you end up making bad decisions to try and reach the goal many times. So what I like to do is kind of let the market hand me what it hands me each and every day, and whatever it is, as long as I follow my rules, I'm going to win. How much each day is going to be different. Some days I'm going to get whoppers and some days I'm not, and that's okay. And I'd rather not have a goal, and that's me. Just ad lib. Will's up 4,300 on the day. Great job. Jack, I would say the next target in the Qs is around 367.75. Would you say? A little higher than you, but that's fine. Your target's fine too. If they can get there, if they can get up above 366.45, that becomes the next target. And stay there. So far they haven't. Grant's up 1,600. Great job. AMD, let's take a look. AMD, 1 second. Okay, AMD. 108, 107.65 would be support. Whether they've bounced too much ahead of that or not, it's probably still okay. Short term. Yeah, I like that spot. I like that spot for a bounce. AMD. Because they're down too much already, Scott. I'm not interested in a short at 443 when they were only $1 below it. And being down that much, that conversation from before, I was not interested in looking for a reaction there. Could have, but wasn't really promoting it. Buy a pivot? You mean after they went above it? Well, the buy was lower. You know, I said, what I said before the open was anywhere down there, and the risk was that to go lower to 440.90, which was my number, but they're going to bounce it at some point. That's what I said. So I was looking for this. Wasn't looking to short it at 443. And you can't buy it on the way up after it goes above 443. That's a recipe to get whipped out. Now it's support for the time being, as long as they stay above, meaning as long as it's not just a quick test is fine, a spike is fine, but if they start closing candles below, then it's no good. Yeah, that's reasonable, Mark. Right back. Still staying above 443. They're going to want to get to 444.65 at some point. If they get back below 443, a test, a spike is one thing. Closing candles below opens the door, and it may happen quickly for a test of the lows. And then we're back into the play it again Sam area. And if they start to do that, we'll talk about it then. But there will be, if they do that, another spike to low and rip it back up in the other direction situation. With that said, I'll be back in 30 seconds or so. I'm back. Normal, right? 444, we talked about that. And here they come back to 443. It's not surprising. Didn't have to happen, may not happen. But all these things that we need to understand is that 444 was going to be natural resistance. They could have stayed there for a while, but coming back, where are they coming back to? They're coming back to run a test of the pivot, most likely. Nice job, Shannon. Those of you that want to buy the pivot on a retest, you have to understand that if they start closing candles below, they're going to spike the low, and you have to be willing to take the heat. And it came up short anyway. That was test number one. Yes, Rakesh. Give me 1 second on that. AMD's in that place. Well, you just don't let it go bad on you, Michael. If you're holding along, you just don't let the remaining or trailing position go bad on you. That's it. Worst case is break even plus a tick or two, cover cost, whatever on the trailer. You just don't let it go bad. You just buy it again if they spike the low. 443 on the nose. It was around a spike of 108, 107, 50, 60, 70 in that neighborhood. That's what I was thinking, Will. But if it doesn't work, they're going to come down to 106. There's your full-on test. Now, if they spike it, they got to pop back above. The longer they stay below it, the more likely they'll run a test of the lows. And again, this is what we're talking about early in terms of you're going to have multiple shakeout operations today. That's why you got to book profits. They're going to go both directions, not just once. I wrote it early. That's what I put on the board, not just once. They're going to do this. The trick, trap, fool, and frustrate crew are having a ball already. They already screwed the shorts and screwed the longs, at least some of them. And most people don't understand where the market changes, where the pivots are, where the numbers are, where they're headed to. Great job, James, plus 20 points. That's fantastic. That's just all out fantastic. Nice half hour's worth of work. Absolutely, Will. Suck in the buy the dip crab, pull the rug out. Absolutely. Shakeout operation, trick, trap, fool, and frustrate coup. We just expect it. It's going to happen today. I said it. I keep saying it. We're not surprised. It's 100% true. So I know for a fact that we have players who rebought or bought 443. So let me hear about it. You should think about booking a profit at a base hit. Never know. Isn't that funny how that works, Will? How do you like them, Dirk? The micro futures. How often is Larry Williams right, Armand? I don't know. I know who Larry Williams is. Certainly has a long-standing reputation in the market. There's no question about it. Smart dude. But, you know, there's something to that, by the way. I don't know about his methodology in the 16th trading day and all that stuff, but I was looking for a turn anyway, right? So there's something to that. Who bought AMD? A lot of folks bought 443. Thank you. Thank you for trusting that it was the pivot. Yeah, Jeff, Nick, Thomas, Dirk, Michael, Bob, Michael, Joseph, Brian. I mean, just the list goes on. I can't even say them all. It's fantastic. Appreciate you guys and gals. I always mess that up. Yeah, I do have IWM, but they're in the no man's land. There's nothing going on here. Yeah, I never said that, Lee. I never liked that one. Let's put it this way. Whether you're a guy or a gal in here, when I say you guys, it includes everybody. It's just a figure of speech, and you all know that. There's y'all. I didn't even intend to do that because some of you were saying say y'all, and I didn't even intend to do it that way. Funny how that works. That's a subconscious working hard. Jerome bought AMD out with a scalp. Well, technically they should give you more if it's going to work. All right, I'll be right back. I'm just going to update the notes. 44.65, folks. Move off 443. Wow. A lot of you made a lot of money today already. I know it for a fact. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about all morning long, Jerome. That's exactly what it is. Yep, Bob got a double, 2 on base. Nice job, Bob. Thomas, 8 points for Michael. W, nice job. Another 8 points for Grant. Jerome is out. Yes, Sebastian. If you're on a trial, they're not. But if you're not on a trial, email me and I'll take care of you. Okay. I'm not sure whether you are or you're not. So just help me out on that one. Rajit made 1192 first time. This is your first day? Is that right? Okay. Well, okay. Grant's up to 2K today. Wonderful. Fabulous. Isn't that great? I mean, I don't even know what to say. It makes you feel good. Makes me feel good. Oh, I see, Rajit. Okay. So you switched over to the futures. Is that what we're talking about? Okay. Gotcha. How do you like it? Let's see, Mika. Struggle. There's always a possibility, Mika. You're not a believer in what I was saying. That's fine. It wasn't for you. Don't worry about it. If you're not comfortable, and I talk about this every single day, if you're not comfortable in the design of the trade that I'm talking about, then it's not for you. Because if you get into a trade you're uncomfortable with, it's a recipe for bad decision making, and then you end up taking a loss. And it's just not a good situation. So what I would say is, I have the funny feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm reading you correctly, because you've told me things like this before around the same type of conditions of the market. And I think that you're just uncomfortable with the trade right out of the gate in the morning until you see the market kind of trade out for a little while. And if there's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of traders that won't trade in the first 15 minutes or so. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the case. You just get the next one. Brian, 1200 bones. Nice job. AMD. Well, if AMD goes below the low, I would say that trade is over since they bounced and they gave you enough of a bounce to warrant that was a successful trade from a scalp with potential situation, talking about AMD. So if they go and spike the low, that particular area that I talked about was wrong, and then it opens a door all the way down to 106 and even 105. Okay, so that's right now AMD's working for those traders that picked it up down here. We'll just leave it at that. Nice job, Alan. Yes, Reggie, you're right. And that's why I talk about it. And I'm not telling anybody what to trade, and we're talking about the difference between options and futures. I'm not telling you what to trade. I'm asking those that don't trade that don't trade futures, that only have experience trading options and may have struggled trading options before, to at least give futures a look. Start with the micros, give them a look. Just see if it's something you want to pursue. You can start with, small account size, and you could just get used to them. And if you don't like them, that's fine. They're better for the base hits. You want to take a swing and play for a bigger move. Options do make sense because you can withstand some back and forth. You know your risk. You don't have to. You know exactly what your risk is. Maximum risk going in. If you're buying a call, right? So see, there's two sides to every story. Yeah, Mika, I think it's partially that you're uncomfortable early on with the fear that the market's just going to move a lot fast against you, and I get that. So maybe the first few minutes isn't for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. You may grow to like it later, but if you're uncomfortable with it now, then just leave it alone. I look at PayPal all the time, Grant. I'll give you some numbers in PayPal in a minute. It's really bad chart. Yeah, the swings are separate, Will. Yep. Just trying to catch up on some of the commentary here in the chat box. Well, guess what? JB Hunt just hit its second exit target from a short all the way up here. How do you like that? Swing trade. The short was, I don't know, it was up here somewhere. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. No change in the spiders, just the target is the target. Nothing's changed. Anybody still long AMD? How do you like that? I told you I'd go higher. I told you they should go higher. I didn't say they would. I said they should. There's a difference. Shannon, thank you. JB Hunt was 209.19 on the short. Mika, there you go. Doesn't matter what you trade, Mika, as long as you get a good trade. Nice job, Riz. Long from low of day in the Qs, holding a trailer. How about that? Look at that. Tremendous. Oleg's long AMD calls looking for a little more. Well, let's give you some information on that one, Oleg, because that's important. All right, there's skew in my thinking here. I think 109 is going to be a gateway. It's a gateway to 110, which is natural. But if they can get above 110, you're going to start working on this gap up here. I can't say any of that's going to happen, but your numbers are 109, 110, and then, you know, the high and then the gap. You try and hold that one. You try and hold that one. You try. Yeah. You just, this is one of the ones where if the spiders are going to go, it should help AMD as long as something kooky doesn't happen, and they could give you a couple of bucks on this one. Could. Gerardo's in for 2.5K on AMD options. How do you like that? It's fantastic. Let's see what we got. Yeah, transports are lagging a little bit. So is the IWM, but not much. I mean, you think about it, they're flat for the most part. Spiders are up 0.25%. It's not that big of a deal. So yes, it exists, but the magnitude isn't anything to write home about. Okay, Corey, I got you. They're just eating time off the clock. That's all they're doing. They're just playing games. As long as they stay above 443, it's okay. Below, it's not. Nothing's changed. It's back and forth stuff. Okay, Rajit. Yeah, good job. I don't blame you. It's logging out. Take the money and run. I like that. Market makers know everything, Scott, but it doesn't matter what they know. It doesn't change what we do. And for you to even spend cycles thinking about that stuff makes no difference. If you put a stop in the system, they're going to come and get it when price is close. That's just the way it is. If you're asking anything like that. I'm laughing at Brent's comment, which is like landing in Vegas, pulling a winner at the airport and getting back on the plane home. No reason to go into town. You're right. What about Tesla? Well, what do you want to know? Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Let me take a look. Let's get a deeper look here. Well, let's assume they made a low. Let's start there. Right? It's pretty good rip. So if they get above the gap, which they filled, but if they get above the gap, the next spot is 236. And after that, you're looking at 238. So if they get above the gap, it's 236 to 238. If they make a new low, let me know. I mean, I guess I can look. Let's go with that for now. And by the way, just for learning purposes. So let's say you're not 100% sure I'm right about 443 as a pivot. But then you see this routine here where they came in and they got out of there really quick. They bounced off of it. There was defense played, however you want to look at it. That's a test. That's a bona fide test. And that adds confidence that that number really is important. So you've gotten confirmation that that number is important, just for learning purposes. And Will, you know this, if the market goes up 444, 65 or wherever, as long as it heads up north at some point today, there's a likely case that Tesla will follow suit. You know that. Good job, Michael. Does it keep the same importance throughout the day? Well, if they're hanging around down here, it does. If they're all the way up here, no, we're not worried about it. Then there's a new number of importance later. If they're hanging around down here, yes. But if they trade away in either direction, we're not worried about it unless they get back toward it. Because if they trade away, there's a new number we're focused on, like up here or down here, or whatever the case is in any particular chart or trade we're talking about. So if we're talking about a pivot, you say, well, as long as price is in the vicinity of the pivot or headed toward the pivot, then we're going to notice its importance, or we're going to assume it's important until we see that it's not if it's not. In other words, if they just cut through it right now, slice through it and test the lows, then so be it. But they've already shown us it's important, and we talked about it before the open. So for me, it's important as long as they're in the neighborhood. Yeah, no, you're welcome. You know, a very small scale. Let me see something here. I'm just curious. Low is 364.69. Low is 70. Yeah, I suspected that. Now watch this. From a technical perspective, you have a higher low by a penny, and you have another higher low. This is bullish, even though the market is in a downtrend for a rally. You know, when they start doing that, yeah, likely will. If all Tesla and Apple and Amazon and Google are all going higher at the same time, it's likely that within reason everything's going higher. Most days. That's good, James. That's very good. And I agree with that because, well, that, you know, I show them in the video from time to time when there's an anomaly between the two. So obviously I'm watching both because there's divergences to a degree in terms of price and in terms of places. And sometimes we're talking about the difference between the SPY and the ES. And sometimes what happens is the SPY will come up short of a number, all right? Or it'll spike through a number, either way. And I'll look at the ES, and it was because the ES was either getting to its number or whatever, and it had to do with one or the other, and then it just, when it reversed, the other one didn't get to the number, but there's slippage between the two. They're not always in the same exact place on the chart. Here's the other thing. Like, for example, this gets a little bit deep in the woods, in the weeds. The ES closes technically, I believe, at 5 p.m., not 6, even though a lot of charts will show 6 o'clock close. I believe it technically closes at 5. So some daily charts will show 5, some daily charts will show 6. If you go to the CME site, I believe you find that it closes at 5. Either way, it doesn't matter. And here's why. Because the SPY, and also there's another close. There's a 4:15 close on the ES, and then there's a 4 o'clock close on the SPY. And all these things will skew the daily charts between the two, depending on where yours are registering. Whether it's registering 4:15, 5 o'clock, or 6 o'clock, it's going to be different than the SPY 4 o'clock at times. And that's why there's one of the reasons why there's a discrepancy, and that's why I look at both. Neither one is right or wrong, it's just they're two vehicles. Right. It closes technically, Corey says, at 5 o'clock for the day, and I agree. And then we know it opens back up at 6 and that starts the following day. That starts like it opened 6 p.m. last night for the 16th, which is Wednesday today. Just nuanced stuff. Most of what I just said really doesn't matter to most of you, and it shouldn't. It's for me primarily because I'm so deep into the numbers. You don't need to worry about that stuff because it's the future, right? That's right. By the way, that is right. It is the future. So that's why there's a point differential between the futures and the, like a couple months ago, there was like a 45-point differential between the incoming futures contract and the outgoing futures contract. Well, that told you that price was going to go higher, and that's what happened at the time. It doesn't always work like that, but that was a good hint. You don't know how it's going to get there. You don't know when it's going to get there, but that's a hint. Market seems to be running out of steam. Well, maybe it's just a shakeout operation. Maybe they're going to hang out here all day long. We don't know, right? We have no idea. What we do know is that if they get below 443, it's not good for the bull case. It's good for the bear case if they stay below. That's what we do know. And then it will likely produce another trade. No, I don't look at that stuff, Michael, because it doesn't work. We've looked at it before. We've done the numbers. We've tracked it in here. You know, what's the max pain? And then, you know, look Friday and the price is nowhere freaking near there. It's too many times that's happened, so I don't even bother with that stuff. It's one of those things that it exists. Sometimes it's right. And therefore, because sometimes it's right, it appears that it works. And then we tend to watch it. And now we're watching something that doesn't work. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Kind of like indicators. It's the same thing. Joe's indicator shop, backward looking indicators. Sometimes it works just by happenstance, and then we get the false sense that it works, and we keep watching it because we think it works because it's embedded in the trading platform. Therefore, it must work. Again, put it in your pipe and smoke it. They don't work. It's random. It's sometimes it's 50-50, all that stuff. It's not good enough, put it that way. You'll bet it gets below 443. I wouldn't make that bet. It may, but why would you bet on it? I know what you're saying, Will. I'm just teasing with you. But as soon as you said it, it bounced. That's the way the market works. As soon as you wrote it, you hit enter and the market bounced. They know. It's kind of quiet now, like Will said, or whoever said, running out of steam. I think Will said that. But doesn't mean they won't go higher. Doesn't mean they won't go lower. But what we've got is this. This is the way I'm looking at it, right? We've got traders with 1 trade in the books, 2 trades in the books, and some with more, okay? We're in the driver's seat. I'm only looking for something that the market hands me, not looking to guess to say, well, I think they're going to go higher eventually, so I'll buy it here and ride it to 444.65. No, we buy support, or we buy when the market moves, we sell when the market moves, to especially on a day like today where we've already seen the whipping back and forth, the rodeo. It can continue, and therefore you don't need the variable risk of guessing. Spiking the low is less of a guess than buying it right here and hoping they go higher. And that was true, Will, too, right? As soon as you hit enter. They know. They're always watching us, and not as a group. Each individual person gets screwed by themselves. Even if we're all in the same trade, we don't all get screwed at the same time. They just screw one person at a time. I'm just kidding. We're looking at Walmart. Well, we looked at this the other day and we said that double top, remember? That's either gonna, they're either gonna close above it or they're not. This is a monthly chart, but starting with daily, and they haven't yet, but they haven't really got rejected yet. This isn't really a rejection. This is a pullback of a couple of bucks from a spike of the high. Below this low, opens the door down here. There's a gap. I don't think this was filled. What's the low? 44, 48. Yeah, it was filled. Never mind. There's nothing to do with Walmart. It's way too high on the chart to buy it, and you can't short it hoping it comes down because it's in an uptrend. Any way you look at it, just because this is down today or this week, it's still in an uptrend. It's very hard. You could have short spiked the high, but to short it here, you can't, and you can't buy it here. That's the way I look at it. Yeah. Oh, I see. Walmart reports tomorrow. Well, yeah, you can't do anything in front of the earnings report because anything goes. What if they're up $5-6 and you short it? Well, you get a pie in the face, and you can't buy options because the premiums are already blown up and you won't win. And it's just, there's nothing to do with it. That's my opinion. No change above 443. They want to get to 444.65. It's just a matter of how and when. Implied move, yeah, see, 5-6 I kind of knew that. That's generally the implied volatility of Walmart up here at $160. It's generally it's 2-3%. It's not a big deal. It's not a big mover. It can, but it's generally not. This isn't a reason to play the stock. In fact, don't do it based on this. But I will say that a lot of times during options expiration week, company will be down for 2 or 3 days into their earnings report, and then all of a sudden you get that reversal. But you can't say that it's still a coin toss. It's not a trade. There's no risk reward in your favor there. Not really. It's just a guess. Well, I would say, Will, that the 165s are being sold and the 155s may be sold. That may be sell. That may be, what do you call that? Straddle, strangle, whatever it's called. Iron condor. I don't know that stuff. That's way above my pay grade. I mean, I understand the concepts. I don't know the names. I understand why a trader would do that. If the implied volatility, you're trying to bracket the options to have the premium basically get sucked out on both ends. Well, Jack, there is no such thing, just so we're wiring the brain correctly. There's no such thing as feel. So you can't feel like anything in terms of the market. The market has made a high, and that's what we go with. We go with what has happened. And if they get above 444, it'll open the door finally to 444.65. 444 is the way station. 443 is the pivot. The more times they test it, the more likely they are not to hold it. And they're just chopping traders up right now. In between 443 and 444 for the last, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last hour and a half, all they're doing is chopping traders up back and forth. That's it. Not us. We're not interested in getting chopped up. We know how it works. But there are traders that are trying to buy and sell this thing for 2 and 3 points, and they're just getting their lunch handed to them. The morning rush is over. We got our pound of flesh this morning. The easy part is over. Remember I said before, it's not going to be easy to hold it for 444.65. You never know if they get there right away, but it's never easy to get 15 points out of it, 16 points. It's not, they don't make it that easy generally. Sometimes, but not most of the time. Yeah, I just stay away from that stuff, Will. Too much thinking. Now I have to worry about earnings and what's going to happen with the reaction of earnings, and anything goes. Flood of volume could take the tape anywhere, or a stock anywhere with a huge flood of volume. What happens if they have some kind of news, right? Whatever it is, whether the market thinks it's positive or negative. I mean, just because the implied volatility is, 5 or 6 points, doesn't mean it can't go up 10 or 12 or down 10 or 12. It can. So I just take the earnings variable risk out of play. Now they're just chopping around back and forth sideways, Jeff. So, not Jeff, Michael H. So it's not really, you're not looking at that right now. I know you are, but you shouldn't be. There's nothing, it's just sideways. Oh, I like that, Namit. I didn't see that, but I'm going to bring up the chart here. Namit's asking about TLT. And we'll look at this chart and look at that spike to low and look at that reversal candle. Remember that number. Here we had Shannon and maybe a few others take that trade. Now they're back down and they just spiked the low, and that's a reversal. So I would say use my number, which they just back tested, still 94.60, give or take. All right, use that number. And if they stay above, you can get another pop out of this if that reversal candle sticks. I mean, you could use the low also. You're better off using the low. That's the proper thing to do. 94.21. 94.21. It's not that far away. Use 94.21 on daily close or even hourly close. If this is a reversal candle, they shouldn't be down there. I look at HE earlier in the week, I almost put it on the board one day, and then they had a huge gap lower anyway. It wasn't even close to my number. I know, Michael, you're doing a good job. It's just today, this is just back and forth. That's all this is. You want to see the trend, and that's when you want to pick those things up. That's the best place, the trend up or down in a consistent basis, like, for an hour, hour and a half, something like that. Yeah, there's no trend today. So HE, I think I had a number. Let me look at my other screen here. Hold on a second. Got there. It's peaking at the bottom of my screen here. I gotta see what it is. 1375. 1375. That was my number. That was close. Look at that bounce. Doesn't look like much on this chart, but 1375 to over 17, that's a hell of a bounce. But it wasn't at 1375, but that was my number. And if they spike the low, keep an eye on this one. Listen, this is for high risk players because Hawaiian Electric is in that Lahaina fire, terrible situation. They're being sued. Obviously, it's their fault. It's got to be somebody's fault, all that stuff. And, that's your risk. Your risk is that situation. But if they spike the low, that's the number, 1375. They spike 1375, that's okay, but they have to, kind of stay above it. And it would be it's off a longer term chart. So what I'm saying is if they spike the low, let's say it's next week or tomorrow or whatever, today, I don't care, doesn't matter. They could be down there for a while, but closing the day below there is not the same as being down there below during the day. They're likely to find support in there somewhere. Okay, it's an important place. It's too bad. I wouldn't have seen it anyway. Well, today, Michael, I would say today was actually easy. I think they gave it to us right out of the chute. If you want it to be long, they gave it. Not a day to be short. Short's got a pie in the face this morning. No day is easy. No trade is easy, but now it's the hard part. The easy part's over. Let's leave it at that. The back and forth, chop shop stuff, rodeo stuff, that's the hard part, specifically after the morning rush when they do this. There's no clear anything right now. Yeah, one of my favorites. Well, I don't like that one anymore. Got screwed a couple times on SC. Look at this. Not that you can do anything with this information. I notice stuff. You have a low of a test of the pivot, and then you have a low of a test above the pivot, which is a higher low, and then you have another higher low and another bounce away. Isn't that bullish just for all intents and purposes? Yeah. On its face, it's bullish, right? On its face value, it's bullish. Even though this is a EKG situation, from a short-term perspective, this is still bullish. Just short-term stuff. I'm just noticing. I notice a lot of stuff. You mean for lower, Will? Higher, yeah, I agree. I didn't know if you were talking about that. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what this is. This is a bullish pattern, but it's hard to buy it in the middle of the pattern. The buy is here and you're holding it. And if you bought it down here and you're still holding a trailer, you're fine. We knew this was going to happen. The likely story is they were going to whip people out. We talked about it 5 times before it happened. Not all 5 times, but the first time. Tell you what, I'm going to walk away, not permanently, just for a few minutes to stretch out. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, that was the low. That was the low. Man, they can get to 42. Nice job, Gerardo. 3.3 for today. Locked in. Great job. It's the best job in the world when that happens. If you're long, you're riding it. Target is 444.65. Giving it the old college try to get above 444. It's very slow now. I'll stick around till 11:30, but there's nothing going on. Answer anything you want, if you want. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jerome. Might have to clarify that. This is just grinding. Back and forth. No, the audio's fine. I wasn't talking. There's nothing to say. No, it's not possible. That's what we were talking about before, Nami, where there's max pain and all this stuff. Trying to predict where the spider is going to close for the week is a guess. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I could easily throw a dart. I could say, does it make sense that they could close it at 450 this week? Sure. Why not? How about 440? Sure. Why not? 445? Sure. I could pick one of those 3 numbers, and I'm probably going to be right on one of those 3 numbers, but I can't tell you which one. And it could be any number in between. So I have no idea. It's just you, Shannon. I wasn't talking. Yeah, they're all, go to lazyswingtrader.com, Joseph. I don't want to convince anybody, by the way. That's not what I'm trying to do. So don't try and convince anybody. Just bring a horse to water. If they want to drink, that's fine. Still higher lows on the 15s. What does that mean, Ron? Oh, 15 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, so far, until they don't. But that's what we were talking about before, and they just couldn't get above 444 yet. That's okay. Don't worry about it, Ron. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Back. Oh, I see what you were looking at, Ron. Yeah, that last candle. I see. It's so slow that they're just chopping around. Look, if you're newer on a trial, whatever, this is kind of the way it works. We get our pound of flesh, our morning trade or trades, plural, early, generally speaking, within the first hour or so. And then the market just kind of goes to sleep. And this is the tough part of the day where it's just no direction. It's back and forth, chop shop, not conducive to trading like it is in the morning early. And that's why we don't really do much right now. If you're holding a position, that's one thing, but looking for a new one, they have to do something like make a new low or make a higher high and get up to 440, 465 just to entertain doing anything at this point. So this is why it's a morning business, just for those of you who are not aware. And we generally, on a day like today, and most days we'll wrap it up around 11:30. There are days when I'll certainly stay on or I'll leave it open and come back a little bit during lunchtime just to kind of give a look and see what's what. But today we'll just wrap it at 11:30. We got our pound of flesh. We take our money, we pocket it, and we go. Come back tomorrow in uniform, ready to go. And this type of business it is. Think of the market like a store. And the store's open all day, but when you go there to shop, you don't have to shop there all day. You get what you need, you get in, you get out. And you go on to the next thing that you have to do or go home. Same thing with the market. Just because it's open all day, there's no requirement to be sitting here all day. In fact, it's unhealthy. Some days, but most days, no. This back and forth nonsense, you don't want to even participate unless you're already in a position. Well, I'm sure you book something in your pocket, Will, and you never know. Yeah, Shannon, I know. Shannon's saying, to support my opinion on using short-dated options, his 444 calls for Friday are down 12.5% because of the time factor from when he bought it last night, even though the spider is green. Exactly. Because from last night, you've eaten up really 25% of the time left, or more, sorry. 33%, well, no, not yet. At the end of today, you will have eaten up another 33%. So from the beginning of today until the end of today, you're working with that portion that you will eat up in time premium that's working against you. Yeah. So if you want to look at the other side of that, the pros will sell premium because they want the time working for them, knowing that Jimmy and Jane Lunch Bucket, you and I, we're going to buy puts and calls. Now we do it here because, for those of you that do, because we're taking a short-term directional trade from an intraday perspective. We expect it to work, some won't, we understand all that. But generally speaking, with the options, you know, it's going to work against you. And certainly as the day or days tick on, the time premium works for the professional trader that sells premium and against the Joe and Jimmy and Jane Lunch Bucket that buys the call and put. We'll start to do the last call for alcohol situation. It's 11:25. I'll stay on for a little bit longer, but go ahead and put something in if you want to have a discussion about anything. And then we'll take the money that we made today, put it in our pocket, and come back tomorrow in uniform, ready to go, and try and do it again. That's how we pile up the base hits, doubles, whatever it gives us. Base hits put you in the Hall of Fame. Can't say it enough. That's the business that you're in. When you're in the day trading business, you're in the base hit business, and when they hand you more, you take it happily. But you're in the base hit business. Base hits with potential. You just keep swinging the bat. Line drive right up the middle, right back up the box, over and over again. Sometimes you get that grapefruit that they throw at you and you can hammer it, and that's fine. Just looking to spray the ball around. Let's get another look, or a different look. Let's start with a 5. Chop shop, nothing doing. No direction, no nothing. Starting to look like a bullish type of wedgish, flaggish, not flag, but wedgish situation. Similar, but starts to look like they failed up here. I'm just telling you what's on my mind when I bring up the chart. Looks like they're running a test of a breakdown candle high and they can't get through it. See what my mind goes to depending on the chart. Whatever it is, I'm not predetermining this. I didn't do this ahead of time. I just decided to do it. And I'm telling you what my thought is. Hanging around down the lows, potentially making a bearish pattern today, unless they get up and go. But that's what the hourly chart is saying. They can't get up and go. So see how the different look morphs from 5-minute up to an hour, 2-hour chart, this is just downtrend and nothing has reversed yet when you look at this. Same thing here. This is not a reversal. This is just a short-term low so far. See how that works? Okay. So they couldn't get up and go, filled the gap and failed. The only thing you really have here is you got this breakup candle low, 223.01, and then the gap, which is 221.31. And there may be a number in between, so I'm going to take a peek. So just give me a moment. Where I have in front of 223.01, and you have this gap, 221.31. So that it's a bona fide number, and that would be a decent place for a spike to low and rip it back if they can get down to 2.25, 2.25. Don't know about that, Will, about the spiders being below. It doesn't have to work that way, but it can. I see what you're saying. I mean, it's logical to think that may be the case, but $3 in Tesla, it's possible. I'm not sure. I would say this, go the reverse. If the spiders are testing the lows or below the low of today, it's likely Tesla's at 2.25, give or take. I think we could say that. Not sure it works the other way, but it can. Okay, that's fair. I think it's logical. Can't really do anything with that information in advance, but it's, you know, it's logical to say that. It's just one of those things that, look, if you're interested in Tesla bounce at 2.25, you just wait, see if they give it to you. If they don't, they don't. Took the bounce off the gap near the close yesterday for $500. Nice job, Bob. All right, folks. No, I do not, Jack. I don't get this. Well, I guess I can get it on this platform. German DAX? I don't know. Let's find out. DAX indices. There you go. Closed at a new high and it's failing. That's a negative. Breakup candle low on the weekly is support. Daily, 15.5, 15.6 is support. Bearish pattern in development on the half-day chart. Bearish pattern on a 2-hour chart. Wedge on the hour chart. And that's your DAX. Okay? It's kind of the way I see it right out of the chute, Jack. That's okay. It's bearish. Oh, yesterday afternoon, Scott? The 442.50? Yeah, me too, by the way. Anybody else take that late in the day yesterday, 442.50? I even took it. Yep, a lot of you. Yeah. Some of you emailed me, I know that. 2 ways, Lee? Double barrel? Yeah, a lot of you took it. $300 before the close. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big trade. I wasn't going to take huge risk, but I took the bounce, absolutely. That's what happens when you know about a number. Doesn't always work. And it's higher risk into the end of the day for sure, but you know, it worked. Got a beat on something. Hold on. I'm going to give you one more before I go, I think, because I know what this one is. Hold on. Let me just see the price. 1860. I'm going to give you a backup. And it's a little ways down. It's 17. Hold on. 1765. Let me see if I can get something in between. Bear with me. Not really. You can't be long if you're not willing to ride it down to $1, which is a lot on an $18 stock, below 18, because they're going to fall. So 1806 is a line in the sand if you don't want to ride it down to 1765. GameStop. Yeah, isn't that great, Lee? Great job on that. Yep, you're right. They did look weak and they fell. They were weak. You say look weak, they just weak. Yeah. Did I forget about that one? Sorry. Rakesh, my bad. There's nothing to do. It's just on a tear. I mean, who knows where it'll stop? It's just It's parabolic now, but it'll come down, but I don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. It's 575, 600, 550. There's no way to know where it's going to stop. It will, but it's parabolic now. This is probably exhaustion. It'll come down. It's just, just a matter of when, but you can't do anything with it. You're welcome. I wish I could tell you something better on that, but there's just no way. This is an absolute monster. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it. Appreciate everybody. Don't do stupid stuff this afternoon. You take the profit, you keep it in your pocket, and you go do something else. We'll be back tomorrow in uniform, ready to go. As you know, I appreciate everybody. It's very important to me that you have the trust in what I'm doing here. So I thank you. All right, folks. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow. Appreciate everybody.